Welcome to the old Sardine Village Museum. I'm Barney Rier. My wife Becky and I own and operate this establishment. Today, we're at the Wolf and Racing Shop, the first to can sardines in this country. We'll show you around in a minute, but first I want to tell you a little story. It was back when we were putting the addition on the museum. A car come sliding to a halt out here. A woman jumped out with the camera. It was a newspaper reporter. And I said, hold it. We don't want any publicity this time of year. But she says, this is news. A woman up a ladder in a snowstorm driving nails. And I said, what about me? I've been here all day. She was down to Mass this morning. Went up a little while ago to put some food on. I'll show you the picture. Now here's Becky, barehanded, happy as a clam at high water. Becky, you're on.
Julius Wolf was the first to can sardines in this country. He was a Jewish businessman from New York. In the fall of 1875, he and Henry Salmon came down to Eastport and started experimenting on canning sardines. Both men were affiliated with the Eagle Preserve Fish Company. In February of 1876, they canned their first sardines. By 1880, we had our first factory here in Lubec, and in 1898, there were 69 factories in Maine, 19 in Eastport, and 21 here in Lubec. Julius Wolf was a dominating figure in the sardine business for many years. Not only did he have the first sardine factory, but he owned into a lot of the other ones, and he financed the pack for as high as 22 factories at one time. Now I'm going to show you how to make these hand-sorted cans. First I got to put my gloves on so they won't cut my hands. I'll place a tin under the die. Cut it out. Now this makes the ends. The bottom and top, they're exactly alike. Now I'm going to cut out the side panel. And this would be on lithograph tin. The sheets were 14 by 20. They was lithographed and there's little lines going across to show you where to cut. Now, the smaller factories would have a share like this. The lithograph tin came down from New York in the beginning. In 1889, I guess I better cut another one. In 1889, Capon of Eastport started a decorating plant. Now I'm beading the sides. This beading makes a shelf for the ends to rest on when they're being sorted so they won't fall down inside. And next, I bead the ends so they can be hooked together. This one forms a slot. Now I'm beading the other end, and this just turns the end up a little bit so that it can fit in that slot I just made. Now, I'm going to show you how to form the side of that can. Now you notice that we've turned this machine around so that you can see what we're doing. This is going to make it a little difficult for me because the machine is supposed to be towards me. Now you watch this forming block, and when I kick on the foot pedal, that's going to go right down in and form that end. Then I bring these arms up and form the other end. Now this little edge that I formed that's going to go in that slot, it's right down like this and goes into the slot. Now can you see that? See the slot there?
Do that again, Beck.
Goes right down and goes into the slot. Now to solder that together, you set it up like this one over here. And first you have to clean it with acid. Now the acid is just to clean the tin so that the solder will stick. Now I got to get my soldering iron out of the oven. This is a Clark burner, and it's hooked up to a Clark air compressor. And these air compressors, one air compressor will run about 5 or 6 of these Clark burners. Now the soldering iron would be red hot. And I've got to get my solder. This is original hand solder from the North Lubec Manufacturing Canning Company. Now before I solder it, I'm going to show you where I'm going to solder. You see this slot that we just put the piece of tin in right there? Now I'm going to take my hot iron and I'm going to go along first and heat up the tin. And then I come right along behind it with the solder. And that will melt and go right into that crack and fill it right solid full, making a nice tight seam. Now I'm going to put the end that I just made a few minutes ago on the mandrel. And then I'm going to take one of these side pieces that's been soldered together, and I'm going to slide that right down over the top of it like that. Now I have to clean that with acid. Like I told you before, this just cleans the tin so the solder will stick. So you got to make sure you clean it all the way around. Then I take my hot soldering iron and my solder, and I go right around here. Now this solder will melt, and it'll fill this crack right full. Now the can makers used to make $50 a month. The regular factory workers were making $20 a month. So you can see that the can makers made a lot more money. There. Now, isn't that a nice looking can? Now Barney's going to cut out an oval cover on the ferrocube press.
I'll step back so you can take in the full beauty of this old timer. Now this was patented in March the 16th, 1897. And in those days everything was run off the overhead shaft. So there'd be a big wide belt around this flywheel and around the overhead shaft. And I'll turn it over once so you can see what it looked like. It turns over pretty hard. So when you cut this tin, you have to wear gloves. They're liable to get blood poison. So this morning when we started, Becky discovered some holes in the gloves. And I says, here, take mine. And she put them on, and I couldn't help but smile. They were so big on her, like one of those cartoon characters. And she handed them right back to me. Refused to go on unless I went to town and bought her a brand new pair of those brown jersey gloves. And I says, there now, you keep them for good. So you carefully place the blank right on the die like that. Centralize it nicely. You might not be able to see this die real good now, but after I make the cover, I'll show you just how these are made. I got some more dies. I'll put that right up there so you can see it. That one right on there. They're not reflecting now, they Becky?
No, they're not.
And the other one right on there. And now I'll show you the dies. Now this die here is the same style as that oval one that we just cut the cover on. Becky, I'd like to have you push on one of those buttons. Now those 6 little spring-loaded buttons pushes the cover up off the die. Now this is the punch. And the cover could be stuck in the punch. And so you got 4 little, you see those? Little spring-loaded buttons pushing them out. Now here's the body former for this can. You see this takes a whole string of the the bodies. It's a different principle. We don't have this kind for the little sardine can. Fold that up now, Beck. You see on this one, fold it right together and solder right in, right while they fold it. She put the acid on. She's got a smaller soldering copper here. Heats that up first with the copper. Comes along behind, that'll draw the solder right in. So normally there'd be a whole string of them in there. Now this is one of the same type of dies, so you can see what they look like in operation. There's the top, right into the bottom. The punch is in the cuttage. And here's one just about the same size, the same style at least, an oval. And the center pad in that is spring-loaded. And here's the punch for this little oval. And that big punch, it's irregular, the pad in that punch. But Becky, see if you can push that pad down. You see it moving a little bit. Now we'll move on to some more small artifacts. Now here's one of the very earliest lithographed sheets of tin. It's just for oil, it's black on can is gold. This is a flag brand, right here in town, Lubec Sardine Company. It was around 14 to 20 inches. If it was for mustard, it'd be in red. And these little sections, instead of being 1 inch apart, they'd be 1 1/4 inches. You see a little rust on there. Okay, now give me another one, Beck. Now this is a little later model of this tin plate. This is in color, 2 colors, so a little later. It's right over in West Pembroke, Sunset Packing Company. Ping pong brand. It's quite pretty. And you see it's a fried sardine. Most of the packers quit when it became too expensive to do the fried ones. Okay? This is another one packed right here in Lubec. See, it says fried in oil, Exposition brand, 2 color. And it's bent up pretty badly. Used to use these patching the rat holes in the houses. Anyone run across them, they'd drop them off at our place. It's hard to get the light right on it. You know, it doesn't tell you what kind of oil either. It does say it's packed in Lubec. Okay. Now, this is one of the early hand-sorted cans. Come right from North Lubec, the North Lubec Manufacturing and Canning Company, Derigo brand. This one has got the French connection. We used to do that around here. Give them a French name. The French had a reputation for doing the best ones. This is Perrier. And that was packed right in North Perry, right up where we had our sardine factory. Now this is a fried one from the Colombian. That's just over the road here a ways. We heard a rumor they were going to tear the headquarters building down. So we bought the place at a discount, patched it up a little bit, and and sold it to the Lubec Historical Society, and they brought that place right back to as good as new. Now this is our most important old sardine can. Wolf and Riesling, the very first to can in this country. And you see it's in mustard. And the can's a little taller, like I told you. Red on one can is gold. Now, here's one of the early Wolf and Riesling stationaries. And you can see it says New York, December the 1st, 1898. And that's Columbian Packing Company. Here's one of the early pieces of stationery from Wolf and Riesling. And an old couple come in here from Eastport. Give me a whole book of these. And you can see that it says boxes of plain tin plate and quarter-old sardine, decorated tin plate, and so forth. Wilbur and Shea, they had something to do with that Sunset Packing Company, too, that we see on here a little while ago. Okay. I guess this is a book of receipts we have here from Mr. Wolf and Riesling. It's the original. Received from Lawrence Packing Company. That's in North Lubec. Seems to be 3 parts to it. Made out in triplicate. Now this is the first of the brass tokens. This is what they paid the help with. It's R.K. Barter Canneries Incorporated in Stonington. Now this is the Lubec Packing Company. So that's right here in Lubec. Now this is Parker and Pike, right here in Lubec. This is for 5 cents. And the Parker half of this company, their home was right up here back of the museum. That's where we live now. Now this is the New England Sardine Company. You see it's got a little hole in it so they could wear it for a charm around the neck. And over here is its little brother, a little octagon one. And this is William Underwood Company, either from Jonesport or Bass Harbor. We've cleaned out both those shops. Now this is a roofing cap. So they drive a nail right through that hole in the center, and that would hold the tar paper on, tar paper shacks for the poor people. And this was made from the that little place between the cans where, rather than have it go to waste. Now this is one of the little brass tags that they sweat right on the end of the fancy cans of sardines. And you can see it's sardines and a la moutarde. That's the French connection again. And you see that's right here in Lubec. And that Mikado brand, must have been made up for the Japanese market. That's the head fellow in Japan. And this little one here is from the Columbian. Extra quality, fried, and sardines and oil. That's right here in Lubec. Now this is the same kind of a brass tag, same company, the Columbian, all applied, sweat, soldered, whichever you want to call it, right on the end of the can. Now this is a later model one, later version. That's a packing check. It's for a case of quarter oil, sardines. You see, it's worth quite a bit of money in this era. 30 cents. And this is from the Columbian. Now here's a shot of the Griffin factory in Eastport. It's the location of the very first sardine factory in this country. This is before sardines were packed there. It was during the Saxby Gale in 1869. It was about the time that Julius Wolfe came to Eastport and had these people, the Griffins, make up the first Russian sardines. We'll come in and look this over a little closer. Now, here's a close-up of the building with the name right on it, J. and S. Griffin. And I'll move down and take a look at the men. You can see them plain enough. Fellow there on the left has got the stovepipe hat on. As we move into the foreground, you can see a vessel. It's been all stove to pieces, laying right on the shore. And those are the chain plates right in the center of the picture. And as you move to the left, right to the left edge of the picture, you'll see a couple of the dead eyes. And we'll show you in other shops here in the museum some of these dead eyes.
Now this is a picture of the old Lawrence factory in North Lubec. And we've got a lot of things out of this building. We have the old stove, railroad stove that was in the company store that was on the wharf here. We have some of the tea boxes. I'm going to bring this up closer so you can see these people here. Now this is another picture of Lawrence's factory. You notice the big boat there in the foreground? And over on the left of the picture where you see that big smokestack, they used to have a machine shop there. And we have several pieces of that. Now this is the same factory, only it's a lot larger now. And later they call this the North Lubec Manufacturing and Canning Company. I don't know exactly what year they changed that over. And you can see on the wharf there's a lot of people here, workers.
We almost bought that place at one time. And something happened, and the deal fell through.
Now this is another picture of the same factory on the right, and on the left is a different factory, and we do not know the name of this one here. Now here's another picture of the men standing around by the factory. And I'm going to bring that in so you can see all the young boys that's in the picture. See up here on the stairs and sitting down there underneath the railing. There's little young boys there. There's some young fellows in through here too. And down front here there's a couple of young kids sitting there. So those kids there were probably cutting the fish. Now here's a picture of the office up to the North Lubec Manufacturing and Canning Company. And I'm going to bring that in so that you can look at the people and the desk.
Here's one of the little smoked herring tins. They come out about 1900. I think they're about 4 ounces. I'll give you another view of it. You can see these were put up right here in Lubec by I.J. Peacock Canning Company. On the bottom of the can, there's 4 recipes, and this is the one for toasted. Nice way to serve these fish is to put them in a toaster and leave over a hot fire for a few minutes and then serve with toast. And when they're talking about a toaster here, it's one of those old-fashioned wire ones, the long handle that you put right over. You pick the top up and jam in a piece of bread for toasting it, or a piece of smoked herring. That's the way I used to eat them, right there. We'd get a little crust here. There's some more recipes for boiled, broiled, and baked. Here's another one of these little smoked herring tins. Channel brand, that's from down Jonesport. The cover just snaps on, and you can see they were packed by Hinckley Stevens Company. It's another one of these little smoked herring tins. And this is Stevens, down to Jonesport. We packed sardines for Charlie Stevens a few years. I might be able to get this right in here. Good for you. Right there is good. Nice man. Now here's a real early 3/4 mustard can, made exactly the same way as Becky made the little one. 3/4 in this case means that it holds 3/4 of a pound, and is packed by the Extra Standard Sardine Company. That's the first I've ever seen of that company. We got one more of these old cans. Now here's an original old oval can. Got this from the Columbian, way down inside the petitions. Made exactly the same way as Becky made the ones in here, except they only had the one tool. You see that's just a lap seam on that joint where it comes together on the left. Now, Becky says I should show you what one of those toasters look like. We've got 2 in the company store, so we got one out here. And see, there's where the toast goes, and there's the handles. Now, Becky, put in some of those Maine Sardine funny books there so we can show how it works. You put that in and close that handle down on it. Now pick it right up, Becky. I think a little bit so you can see it. You've got a good tight grasp of it. And then you hold that right over the open fire. That'll take the real thick old-fashioned slices too. Okay?
Now we've got our cans made, and next we got to get our fish. Lubec was already in the fishing business. We were the first to put up smoked herring in this country. We started in 1797. The wares were already here. The first ware was in North Lubec in 1820. And the seines, the first one in this country, was in 1860. So you can see we're all ready to do fish. Now these first fish were fried, and to fry them, first we have to cut the heads off and haul the stomachs. Now we got some fish right here today, so we can demonstrate this. First, I'd like to show you the knives. This is one of the early knives. These are all handmade knives. Here's a big long one here. Look at that root. And this is a nice heavy knife. If you've got big fish, this would be real good to use. Now the boys used to cut these fish. When they were 8, 10, and 12 years old, they started cutting the fish. Now to do that, first you've got to put the fish belly side down, cut right behind the head almost all the way, and then pull out like that, and you haul the stomach right out. See? Now let me do that slow so you can see what I'm doing. Cut slow down through here, and just pull that out like that. Now the kids used to get 5 cents a box for cutting these fish. And this is one of the boxes right here, like this one here.
Now, Becky, I want to see that stomach, that gut coming out this next time.
Okay.
It's,
You see it? I'll hold it up so you can see what it looks like.
yeah, okay. To keep it down. Oh, good, good. I want them to see that gut, to see that it does pull right out with it.
See, when you get almost all the way down, then you don't go the whole way through. You pull, and that hauls the stomach out. My hand is in the way, I know. I'll see if I can get over to one side a little bit.
Now hold the head up too, Becky, next time, just like you did before, but don't hold it way up in the edge, just right at the place. And I think they'd be able to see that real good.
See that?
Right there, that's good.
Now, as I said, these were just young boys cutting these fish. And the girls, when they were 12 and 13, they started packing fish. So the whole family was working in the factory. Now, these fish in the beginning cost $1 a hog set, 50 cents for freight. Later on, when they got to be more fish, the price went up to 5, and I don't mean more fish, I mean more factories. The price went up to $5 and $6 a hog set, and $1 for freight. In the 50s, my husband and brother-in-law used to have a sardine factory. And we put up these fried sardines. So I've cut a lot of these fish. The 3 of us used to cut fish every time. See, we've got a mackerel here.
Yeah, I
Put
see
that
that.
over to one side, and I'll have that for my dinner.
I see that mackerel there.
That look good, huh?
Yeah. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Now, the kids, sometimes they've tried to cheat a little bit. I've heard stories about how they just slide some of these fish right in the box here and then put a few cut ones on top. But they'd catch them doing that kind of stuff. You know, kids, they'd try anything once. Well, doesn't look very good.
It's a cow, huh?
The kids would have fun doing this, though. I mean, it was hard work for the poor little things. They had to start working too young. Not like it is nowadays, but they still would play around, hoss around some, and have some fun there. Play jokes on each other.
We got pictures of that, too.
I haven't cut fish for years. I'm a little bit slow at it now. I used to be pretty fast at this, but pretty slow now. Need a little practice. They used to have baskets that they dumped these guts into. I haven't got one here, so I'm just going to try to slide them out behind there a little bit.
That's the original cotton board right from the old Columbian. Got a lot of scars on it.
In those days, everybody was working in the factory in the family. Father, mother be working in the factory, and the children. The smaller factories would hire anywhere from 25 to 50 people. And the larger factories would hire anywhere from 150 to 300 people. So you can see there's a lot of people working in these factories. They used to have little camps around all the factories. And the people, if they lived out in the country, there wasn't any cars in those days, and so they would move right into these camps for the packing season. The packing season was from the 1st of April to the 1st of December. When I got married, they still had some of the camps around, but the people used to just move in and live right there year-round at that time. These are going to be some good. I can remember how nice these fried sardines were. We go down through this process, you're going to see what a nice can of sardines that we put up.
I'm not drooling yet.
You wait till they start frying, you'll be drooling. It's a little bit awkward and I have to reach over the top of the hits. I haven't had any place to throw them. But you get the idea how it is done. I'm just going to do one slow again now so you can see. I cut right down through, almost all the way, and then I pull out like that. If something don't come out, you reach out and grab a hold of it. Like that. Make sure it all comes out. So these are going to be good fish. Completely clean. There. Now I had a pan set in the bottom of this box. And I'm just going to dump it right over here. And I got some salt water here to set them in a pickle made up so they'll soak in. What they would do is they take these boxes and they dump them in these barrels. And these barrels would have water in them and a little salt. And it would take anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more if the fish were big. It doesn't take very long to salt them. Then when they were ready, after they sloshed around, got them nice and clean, they scoop them out with these nets right here. And then they put them into this basket. Now I'm going to show you first. Now this is one of the early flakes here. This one is all cruddy. It's got a lot of rust and everything. So I'm going to put one of these stainless steel flakes on top of it. And I'm going to set my basket back in. And I'm going to bring this bucket over here that I just put my fish in. I'm going to swash them around a little bit, clean them up nice and clean. They've got to be clean. Then they put them right into the basket here. When I get these on the flake, then I'm going to show you an old torching bowl, which was one of the early ways of getting fish. I'll tell you how they did it. There. Now the women, they would set these baskets all over the wharf. All this work was done right out on the wharf. And they'd lay these right out here onto the flakes. Got to be careful not to get them touching each other. And if the tail is laying up on the fish, it'll haul the skin right off when it dries. So you have to make sure that the tails aren't laying against any of the fish. Just lay them right out here, and then they set them right around the wharf to dry. When we had our factory, we had a dryer at that time to dry the fish. But these days, they dried them on the wharf. They'd probably just dump these right out. They'd go a lot faster than I am, but I want you to see how they're laid out. The women used to do this. Men did the scooping and stuff, and washing them up and all that stuff, and then the women would take these baskets and lay them out on the flakes. They had a place up in the top of the buildings if it was a stormy day so that they could dry them inside, but it'd take a long time to dry them that way. If it's a good day, these will dry in about half an hour, an hour. Take very long.
You'll see just what they look like too, because we're going to put those out and dry them right in the sun.
We're trying to do this just the way they did it in the old days so that you get a good idea of how these were done. There. Well, those are all ready to put out on the wharf to dry. Now before I get down here, I want to show you this old torching boat here. This was an early method of catching fish. They had a net on the back and a handle right on here. And they had little small boats. And on the front of the boat was a thing they called a dragon. And they put birch bark in it. Then they went out in the dark of the moon, or before the moon come up, and touched that birch bark on fire. Now fish are attracted to the light, so they come swimming right towards it. And then they scoop them out with these nets. Another thing I'd like to show you is this old hogshead barrel back here. Make sure you look underneath the table too, because you can see both parts. Now this, when I'm talking about a hogshead of herring, this would be what it would be. And that's about 1,200 pounds of fish. Now while these fish are drying, I'm going to show you some pictures of these early cutting and so forth, and drying the fish.
Now here's some pictures of the boys cutting fish. Now you heard Becky say that the hogs and the fish is 1,200 pounds. I've seen it go all the way from 9 to 1,500 pounds. One day a fellow give us quite short measure, and next day he called up again, had more fish. All perfect fish. 5 fish to a can, run right in the mold, he said. And I didn't even want to bother with him, but my brother says, get the fish. He's had his turn, and now it's our turn. So we went to the seine to pick up the fish. And Raymond was on the winch head, and I was on the net. And he hoisted those fish up, so the bag of the fish and the net was laying right again the side of the boat. The water was all running out real good. And when he figured they'd drain sufficiently, he'd hoist them right up 2 blocks. And when I let go of the purse handle, those would go crashing right down and pack the fish, tramp them right down. And the fellow says, Raymond, those are all fish, dry fish, no water. You need water. Raymond says, we got plenty of water, right to the factory. I think we evened up with that fellow. Now this picture here is all labeled. It says George Goodall. I think it says 1911. And a couple of years ago, I was talking about George, the business I'd done with him. A lot of things in the museum from his place. And his sister said, why? That was my brother. Wouldn't I love to have a copy of that photograph? So she and her son got a copy of it. Quite pleased. George's a nice man. Nice looking boy, isn't he?
Now this picture is after the fish had been cut, and the men are putting them into the barrels here, a little bit of salt, and then they're washing them all up nice and clean, letting them soak for 5 or 10 minutes, and they're putting them in the baskets. And over here you'll see a whole pile of baskets is piled up there ready for the women. Now over here you'll see on this other side, see over here, this is a whole stack of flakes. And see, there's one of the baskets there. And the women are taking these fish and putting them on the flake, laying them out like I showed you.
You see, they were all working right out on the wharf.
Now this picture shows the flakes laying on the wharf. See how they're laying all around the wharf? And they're still back here working. You can see the stack of flakes here. They're still getting them on the flakes. As they get them on the flakes, the men carry them around, set them around different places on the wharf.
And right out on the end of the wharf, you can see a gallows frame where they hoist up the herring right there.
Yeah, see? These kegs were for the Russian sardines. And a Russian sardine was merely little fish that they'd cut the heads off and haul the stomachs out, just like I did a few minutes ago. And then they put a layer of the fish in, then a layer of all kinds of different spices, and they kept layering those in until they had it full. And then they'd cover it with a vinegar pickle. Now these came over from Germany. And when the Franco-Prussian War in about 1870, there was an embargo, so they couldn't get these fish, these Russian sardines, through. So Julius Wolfe had heard about the small sardines down in Eastport. And they came down there and had the men, showed them how to put these up, and had them make up the Russian sardines. These sardines were so much superior to the ones being shipped over because they didn't have to have that big long voyage coming across the ocean, so that they took over the market for these. And after the war was over, so they could get them through, no one was interested anymore in those kind. The people that lived up around New York, there was a lot of the German people, and they just loved these Russian sardines. Now, let's go back and see if those fish are dry yet so that we can fry them up.
Now the fish are all dry and they're ready to fry. We'll have to put those in fry baskets. And you notice that they look a little slightly different color. The skin looks sort of like parchment.
Now you just seen the flake of fish that Barney showed you after they've been dried. And what they would do is take a flake of fish and dump one flake into each basket. Then this tank would have the cottonseed oil in it, and they would set these down in the tank and fry them. Now when they put them in here to fry, the fish will go right to the bottom of the basket. And then they stay there for a little while, starting to cook, and then they start coming up to the top. And when they all get up to the top, you leave them there just for a second or so longer, and then you take them out. And they have these little handles here like this. You pick them up, and you set them up. They usually have a shelf right over the fry tank, so that you could drain them and cool them. Now we didn't want to fry the fish down here in my little cooker, so we took them up to the house and fried them. And of course, we couldn't possibly fry them in this tank here because this is just an old antique tank with no way to heat it up. So I brought my fish down all fried, and I'm going to show you how to pack them now. So first I'm going to put on my hand net. Then they used to just take some old newspapers, a piece of rope or string of some kind, put that around the waist and tie it on. When that top sheet gets dirty, you can tear it off and it's pretty clean again for a little while. There. Now, since we're going to pack these fish and we're going to can them ourselves to eat, we didn't want to put them into these sorted cans. But what they would have been packing them in would have been these sorted cans like I showed you how they made them just a little while ago. And then they had these covers that they put on top. So I'm just going to pack them in the regular cans, and I'll tell you what they did. Now first I'm going to take a bunch of cans and I'm going to put some cloves in them. You just put 2 cloves in the bottom of each can. I said to my husband one day we needed some cloves to show people. I always demonstrate how they pack the sardines, although I usually don't have any fish like I do today. And he said, I got some cloves over the factory. And I said, over to the factory? How would you get cloves over to the factory? And he said, well, when we packed sardines, I saved them. Now imagine it. It was 1953 when we packed the sardines. And he had these cloves, this jar of cloves, over to the factory. And I said, man, how did you save them so long? We had moved from Lubec up to North Prairie. We stayed there, we had a sardine factory up there for a while. Then we moved back into Lubec, and he had saved these all that time. I couldn't believe it. So today I sent him in town to buy some new ones so we could put them into these sardines here. So what you do is you put a couple of cloves into each can. This gives them a real nice flavor. I can't count, I guess I'm throwing 3 in here instead of 2. They smell good, I know that. These fried sardines are awfully good. Now I haven't packed sardines for a long time, so I'm going to be slow. And that's good because I want to go slow anyway so you can see how to do this. So you take your fish, you cut off a little piece off there where it's been cut, and you cut the tail off and you put it in the can. Then while you're putting this one in the can, you reach out with the other hand and take the next fish up. And you cut that one and put it in the can. You notice that you got to get these in the opposite way over here. They smell good. I wish you could smell them. And my mother-in-law told me that she started packing in the sardine factory when she was 13 years old. Her uncle owned part of the factory. So there was 5 girls in the family, and they moved down into one of the camps. And where the uncle owned the factory, they had the choice camp. It was the end one, so that they could look across the water. There was also one that was near the pump, the water. She said that when she was packing sardines, that she wanted to buy a new dress for confirmation. So remember the tokens that we showed you back a little while ago? Well, she started saving some of those tokens out because she wanted to buy the material for that dress. A friend told her that she got the material and some lace that she'd make her a dress. So every payday, her brother always came in, picked up the paychecks. So she sneaked out a few of these tokens, and she had a friend make her up a dress. I don't know, I've never heard anything about it, so I guess that her father never found it out. Well, I'm sure he probably wouldn't have minded anyway. Do you know how kids are? She said that her brother worked in the factory at one time, cutting fish when he was little, and that he was one of those boys that put the fish, whole fish in the bottom of the box and filled it up with the cut ones on top, and he got caught. She always liked working in the factory. She worked up until she was about 70, I guess, and she had a cancer. The kids told her she shouldn't work in the factory any longer. Well, she loved working in the factory. She'd go down there, and all of her friends would be there, and they'd be laughing and joking and telling stories. And so she started sneaking back down into the factory. Because the boys knew she was sneaking back, but they said if she wanted to go that bad, that they guess they better leave her alone. So she worked. She was in her 80s, I guess, before she quit. She really looked forward to going down there. She do have a lot of fun in the factory. You get a good table mate and you're laughing and joking. It's fun. You have a good time. It's hard work, but it's fun. You can see I'm not going very fast. I haven't packed for so long I couldn't... You'd never believe I used to be a fast packer, would you? Can't wait to try some of these sardines. I used to like these fried sardines. The only sardines I ever liked. I never liked the regular sardines. These are very tasty. I remember when we used to be frying sardines, and our friend Rier would come out, stop in, get a can, put some mustard in it, pick up some of the fish out of the fry tanks as they're being fried, and he sat there munching on a sardine, talking away. People just like the taste of them. They're real tasty. I think they fired me if they seen how slow I was going at the factory. It's been so long since I packed. I can't believe it, I'm going this slow. When I make glue packing down here, I can clip right away fast. No one knows the difference, but I can't today. Whoops. See, I'm using fumble fingers today. There's another little fish down there in the corner. I wish you could taste these sardines after I get them packed. You'd never believe how good they are. Nothing like the regular sardines you buy today.
It does take a couple of weeks, though, for the flavor to get into them.
It's worth waiting for.
Yeah.
I guess I better pack up my old can here so I have enough fish for it. So I want to show you what they did after they got done here. There. I got them all packed up. Now the next thing is they had to take and put a scoop of oil into each can. So I'm going to oil these all up. Wait, smell those cloves. Don't they smell so good?
You won't get that on the film, you know.
I know. That's why I'm telling them. So they'll know they smell good.
You see, that scoop is just the right size. It's a small scoop, and it's for oil. They have a bigger one for mustard.
Yeah, the mustard can, as we showed you on the film, is 1/4 of an inch taller than the oil cans, too.
And that scoop is a handmade scoop. It's all soldered together. So we're going to get a little bit of, it's coming in contact with solder at least. See, we set a little stainless steel part of olive oil right inside of that copper pot, and we didn't have to clean the big copper pot. We know the stainless one's clean.
Now I'm going over here into the hand soldered can. So this one here is going to be for the dog. I wouldn't eat it. So after they got done that, the women had to put the covers on, and they call that heading them up. So what they do is they'd start right on one side here. Stick that, see, it's just like a fingernail on the end of it. Stick that right down in there and go right around like that. Gotta get that cover on the inside. Go all the way around. The cover was in there, in good shape. Kind of hard on the corners sometimes. That's the hard part to put in. Oops. Push it right up the other side. Okay, I'll try it again. The women really had a lot of work to do in those days. See, now the women don't have to do anything like this at all.
See, that's got over 2 feet of lead soldered joints in it.
Now I'm just going to pick this tray of fish up that I've just packed and set it over here so you can see the tray that I've got all headed up here of the old-fashioned cans. See, they put the sticks on like this here. And put another tray on top. Now what they did, when they get these all done, they start another tray, and every once in a while the men would come around and they'd pick these trays of fish that was all done, headed up, and take them over to the solderers. The packers are all done with these now. They're going to the solderers, and they're going to solder the covers on. So they would take that acid. Now I'm just going to make believe do one right here in the very middle so you can see. You go right around all the way around and clean that with acid. And that's just to clean the can so the solder will stick. Then you take your soldering iron and your solder, and you start right on one side here, and you go right around. You can see there's quite a little crack there. That solder would break down in that crack, felt right solid full.
You see that soldering copper is right over the head of the solder.
Always ahead. That's warm enough to 10. Now they do the whole tray. Now we've got this all done and we're ready to move ahead and sterilize these cans of sardines. Here I am over here at the bath tank. Now these sardines are all ready to sterilize, so they use this tank here. They call them baths. This would be an open tank. They put the sardines in here all ready to be sterilized with water, and they would boil them for 2 hours. Then when they were done, they scoop them out with this old chainette scoop. They used to have a pile of sawdust here on the floor, and they dump them right in that sawdust, and that clean up the outside of the can nice and clean. Now when they come out of here, they're swollen up on the top, and as they cool, they go back into place. Now if they took some out and they weren't swollen, they knew they were leaking. So then they had to go back and be resoldered and then rebathed. Then they would put the sardines in these wooden boxes. Now this is for the 1/4 sardine cans like I was using. These 2 boxes here are for the 3/4 mustard cans, and these are for the cans, larger cans, and they hold 3/4 of a pound. And these ones down here are for the 1/4 cans again, like we were doing. Now I'd like to show you how to reclaim a flipper. And a flipper is a can of sardines that's got too much fish in it, so it's puffed up. They called them flippers because they would flip back and forth. Now they couldn't take out any fish, but what they would do is poke a hole in the top of the can, end of the can with a pick. Then they'd squeeze out some of the oil so it would go back into place. Pile them right in here. Now this is a perforated bottom, so that there's holes here for the oil come up through. And they would set this down into a pan of hot cottonseed oil. And they'd leave it there for 20 minutes. Then they'd take it back out, clean the ends of the cans, take some acid, and put it on the hole so that the solder would stick. Take the hot soldering iron, go right around there and heat up that, and then put a drop of solder on there to fill up that hole. Now when we opened the museum, Mose Pike came in, and he used to own the Holmes Packing Company in Eastport. And he said that in the 30s, he was still reclaiming these flippers. So he shipped out a carload of sardines, and he had 1 case of flippers in there. And they said the FDA hauled it over onto a side rail and kept it there for a month or 2. So he said that ended up the flippers for him. He never did any more. And now, Barney's going to show you around the room here.
Now we're picking up those small items on the shelf above the bath tank. And that's a hand-sorted can right there, a round one. And here's a little can that they made into a, see, they got a handle on it and a cover on it. And that's a can, a jar of fried sardines. I think the date on it's 1903, and that's in olive oil. See the baking powder and the chocolate ends. And these are dyes, embossing dyes. You squeeze that right into the covers. That's for the 1/4 can, the same as we just did. And this is for the, this set here's for the 3/4 mustard can, the 12-ounce ones. 10-ounce, I think it says on there. And there's our fried sardine label. And Becca is opening up a can of those now so we can try them out. And this is the carton goods. That'd be a regular can of sardines. See, the fried ones were wrapped, and this one here is in a little box. It's cartoning. And I'll show you a picture of kids cartoning. That can to the left is a lobster can. And you get a little view there of the close-up of that scope net that they scoped the cans of sardines of the bath. And right up here is a group of kids cartoning sardines. You think of that little fellow right up front with those oversized bib coveralls on. Must have not been much of a life. And you notice the rows, cotton goods down below. There's a stencil from the same company. And there's a stencil. You see the handle on it too, upper and left. That's from the Wolf and Racing Company. That's the name of the shop. Columbia brand, that's 100 1/4. That's our rarest stencil. And Napoleon extra fried. Most of them were fried in those old days. And this is Derigo. That's from the North Lubec Manufacturing Canning Company. I found that on the beach. And now we'll just run down by these cases that we see before. But I want to show you the stencil down below here. Now, we'll see how Becky's doing on those sardines. Here she is.
Here's a can right here that I've opened. Bring them right in, Barney, so they can see how good those sardines look.
I'll come in slow. You know,
Isn't that a nice looking can of sardines?
I can smell those right over here, Beck, right now.
Yeah, they look good. I'm going to take and try one in a minute.
We'll go to it.
I can't wait to try this sardine. Now that is a good sardine. Isn't that delicious? I wish you could taste how good these taste.
I wish I could too.
I'm going to eat them all up before you get a chance. Isn't that good?
You're not just acting, are you?
No, they're delicious. I never liked sardines, but I like these kind. I used to eat these when Barney packed them. You remember me packing these up just a little while ago. And they're some good.
Well, I'll let you have one more.
Good.
Now, now we're going to go over and see the old generator run. Now here's a view of the dynamo, the generator, the lighting plant for direct current. Now I'll come in so you can look each part of it over. Now there's the voltage regulator. Look at the beautiful scroll work in that. Brass handle. And there's the original voltmeter. Everything here is original. One kit. So Becky, will you carefully take one of those little plugs out? Okay. See, there's 4 of those. 2 on each bearing. That's for oil in the bearings. That commutator. That wooden handle there. And see the switchboard panel right there, all wood. And I'll see if we can read that nameplate. You can see that's built by it's a C&G electric company in New York. And right in the foreground you see the patent dates. Way back in the 1880s.
First one was December in 1886, and the last one is in February of 1890.
We'll get a look down at the frame of it. That says the name on again there, C&G or whatever it is. Those, see, there's the open windings on select when they finish them out. And we'll go out and take a look at the pulley a little bit. That's the original wooden pulley there. Even the bearing hangs, we can't see them from here. They're original. So there's one last view of the generator. Now Becky's got to say goodbye to us.
Well, time is running out. I hope you've enjoyed your visit here at the Old Sardine Village Museum here in Lubec, Maine. See ya!